So how you doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah. Went and had went to audiology and had a hearing test today, and a little bit in high frequency is low, but other than that, it's doing pretty good.
Okay. You use the VA?
Yeah. Yep.
People beat up on the VA all the time, but they're not that bad compared to a lot of other medical deals.
Right.
I mean, do they have their flaws? Just a lot, but but
Yeah.
really they're no worse than regular hospitals.
Yeah, this is true. And if you don't have the VA and you're on insurance, there's like things that they charge you for that you didn't know about, and
Yeah.
you thought, and your bill's going to be higher sometimes than you think it's going to be, and yeah,
What's your disability rating?
I don't have anything right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we'll have to talk about that.
All right.
Well, I mean, like the hearing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's being around all those jets and all that noise
Yeah.
could be why your hearing's messed up
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
That's what she asked me questions about why I was there, and I was telling her about working around all the jets and helicopters, and told her
Well,
all
I
the
mean,
noise we were subject to.
yeah, another thing you might want to look at too is, because y'all had a burn pit there at
Yeah.
your, well, they call them fobs now, but what I'm talking about. Um, and that all the chemicals and crap that y'all burnt, all the
Yeah.
the feces and all the other stuff that y'all were burning,
Yeah.
that's shown to have medical conditions. So
Yeah.
you might want to look at getting on the burn pit registry also.
I've done that already,
Okay.
and we burned our own trash and our own waste and everything. We
Yeah.
used jet fuel to burn it all. When we were in Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that gets us to a little bit to a topic that's interesting. So, let's talk a little bit about Desert Storm. I know I was there and you were there, and
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the first things that we got started on, because when I found out you were there too, it was like, there's not too many of us.
Right.
There wasn't that many people sent over there.
Yeah.
And occasionally I'll run across another Desert Storm vet, but mainly, they're kind of few and far between, because they only sent, what was it? It was less than 1 million, I think.
Wow. Okay.
So, I mean, we're pretty rare breeds, really. I mean,
Yeah.
because of that. Because I was sent into Daharan. I was actually at Langley, so I was in the first tech fighter wing, which was the first unit sent over.
Okay.
So they called us in and said, "You're going somewhere, but we can't tell you where." And,
Yeah.
I've been watching the news, so I knew exactly where we were going, but they wouldn't officially tell us. So I went home, got all my crap, and came in, got my A bag and my C bag, and dragged it out and dragged it on. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane, and we were actually flying combat missions 24 hours after we left.
Wow.
And we were escorted in by two Saudi F-15s, which was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We were flying over Saudi. When we crossed over the Saudi airspace, somebody said, "Hey, look out the windows." And we looked out the windows, and there was an F-15 on both sides of us.
Wow.
Because we were the first bunch sent in. Nobody knew what we were flying into.
Right.
So we had an F-15 escort in, and that was kind of when the realization hit of what I got myself into.
Right.
We landed and they were taxiing. I was on 141, and we were taxiing down the runway, and they dropped the back door, and all that hot air rushed in.
Oh yeah. I remember
was
how hot it was. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah.
And I remember looking at my buddy Mark walking across the tarmac, because of course they parked us all the way over there, and we had to go over here with all of our crap. And
Yeah.
it felt like it was 120 degrees at 7 o'clock in the morning. The
Yeah.
humidity, people don't realize how humid it gets over there. You're in the desert. No, you're right on the damn med. So it's
Right.
that humidity.
Yeah.
You could see the air was so thick.
Yeah. And I remember right before it got dark, when the sun was hitting the horizon, and all the humidity would hit you right before it got dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you, that was on my birthday, by the way. That was my 29th birthday. I spent my 29th birthday on the way to Desert Storm.
Oh,
Happy
wow.
birthday.
Wow. That's pretty wild. Man, because like me going to boot camp, it was my 19th birthday. The morning I went to boot camp. It was my 19th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
so, it's kind of funny. We sit back and we look at all this stuff, and like I said, I remember walking across the tarmac and looking at Mark and going, "What the hell have we got ourselves into?" Because
Right.
Mark was one of my hunting buddies and hunting and fishing buddies. We used to hunt and fish together at Langley,
Right.
and it's kind of interesting because me and him, we had 3 assignments at the same place, so
Okay.
we kind of followed each other around for years.
Right.
And
Wow.
he retired, and he retired what for 3 years, 2 or 3 years after me.
Okay.
And yeah, he's up in Idaho now. But yeah, that was an interesting take on things. I mean, we just made do with what we had. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of resources when we first left. I mean, we did not
Yeah.
have we washed our we well, see, I'm Air Force, so we're kind of spoiled compared to you guys. And they actually put us in the Saudi. They had just built a barracks for the Saudi basic training, and
Okay.
nobody had ever been in it, and
Wow.
they put us in it. So we got this brand new building with air conditioning.
Wow.
So hey, that's why I'm Air Force. I'm not Marines. So any Marine that wants to get in the conversation with me about who's smarter, well, I'll just tell them that story.
Right. Ah, yeah, because we were asleep. We put our tents up, but put the sides up on them. At least you get a little bit airflow if there was any. But we slept on our racks, and man, yeah. I remember we went on over there on a C5.
Mm-hmm.
We left El Toro, and when we landed in Germany, I think we were there for 11 hours, but we had to stay in this little room in this building, and we couldn't go anywhere. And then we got back on the C5, and we sat in the top part where the seats were at.
Oh, y'all set up the seats? Y'all got to set up in
Yeah,
the seats?
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
Cadillac ride up there.
All of our gear was packed in the bottom of in the cargo part, and yeah, so we sat there and man, because it was cold in Germany. Actually, felt cold in Germany.
Yeah.
And then and it was nice on the plane, and we landed, and they're like, okay, it's hot, it's gonna be warm outside, hot outside, and they said it was 100 and something degrees. I can't remember what it was. It was over 100 degrees, but it was like up until wintertime, it was over 100 degrees. But and soon as they opened the door for us to go down in the cargo hold,
Mm-hmm.
you felt the hot air.
Yeah.
And we were just like, oh man, it's hot. And then they're like, well, we're gonna walk out, and we have to go across the sand, and then we're gonna stand underneath these tents they put up for shade, because it was like the middle of the day. And we walked across there, and we're just like, oh my god, how hot is it? Because it was hot.
Yeah.
And then we waited for our gear to get unloaded, and we grabbed our gear and got on trucks, got on 5 tons, and I think we landed in North Jubail. It was a Saudi air base, and we drove all the way down I think it was to Bahrain. We drove all the way down there to find out, and they put us in this like warehouse type of deal that was empty, and we sat in there until they figured out where we were going and how we were going to get there. And then we went to this abandoned soccer field, It was a soccer stadium that was abandoned, and that's where we stayed for like 2 weeks while we built a base out of it, and we put up fuel system and put in fuel systems and fuel points for Harriers. And then they said, okay, somebody else, the next people coming, we gave them that, and we moved somewhere else and built another fuel system and a whole base. We built 5 different bases, and finally the last one we stayed at up at North Jubail. That's where we flew into, and that's where we ended up staying. And then we made a Ford area refueling point up in let's see, what was it called? It was Manifa Bay, and right next to Manifa Bay there was a fishing village that they had evacuated, so it was empty. And we built the fuel system there, and another fueling platoon was up there, but they were refueling like LAVs and stuff and vehicles while we were doing helicopters. And where we were at was an old abandoned airfield. It must have been from like World War II or something, because the asphalt was like powder. You could see where the asphalt was, but it was totally deteriorated. So they came in and put in the fiberglass mats down so the helicopters could land.
Yeah.
And and then we built everything when we went over there came off of ships and was brand new equipment.
How far were you from Basra?
Man, I'm not really sure.
Because I think because you were on the coast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in Dhahran. So you were in Dhahran when I was there. There's no doubt about that. I didn't leave.
Because I think we landed on like August 16th or something like that.
Well, yeah, I was there because I got there on the 9th.
Okay. Yeah, so you were there. Yeah.
I was there. Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
We were at the we were in the same place.
Wow.
I mean, you don't really. There's so many people coming and going, because I'm surprised that y'all landed where you did, because Dhahran was the hub. Where we were at was the biggest. That and Riyadh were the 2 biggest Air Force bases there.
Wow.
And everything that came in by aircraft either came to Dhahran or Riyadh.
Okay.
So, I know that they had, so I would have thought that you'd have came through there, but who knows? They might have flown you in to the other base because I know early on, I walked outside and I looked down, and the way Dhahran was laid out was it had the commercial runway here.
Okay.
Straight on one side of it.
Right.
And then it had the military runway on the other side of the base, and there was a mile in between.
Okay.
About a mile. I'm not going to say it's exactly a mile, but it appeared to be, it was a long damn way. Okay.
All right.
Between the two. And the reason we went to Dhahran was because the Saudi F-15s were stationed there, and we were flying F-15s.
Right.
So they already had all the facilities that we needed there.
Yeah.
Because they had their own F-15s there. Same equipment was needed.
Okay.
So, but I know I walked there about the 2nd or 3rd day after I got my shit together and got kind of oriented to what was going on.
Right.
I walked out, and all I could see from the military runway, because I was right by the military runway, to the civilian runway was planes lying nose to tail, cargo planes.
Wow.
That whole distance.
Wow.
Nothing but 141s and C5s. And then we had a little space over to the right where they had brought in 130s.
Okay.
They were flying. They had an area, because you know how 130s are so much smaller than the 141s and the C5s.
Yeah.
So they had an area over there for them.
Yeah.
And then we had all of our fighters out in the bunkers and stuff out.
Wow.
There. And it was, and so they might have diverted you guys because there was nowhere to put the damn plane.
When we landed there and we got up, we were the only plane there, and we were the only the only United States military there, and you didn't really see anybody else. And then by the time we came back to make that our permanent place, and that place, there was a tent city, and the Air Force was there. We had our refueling points, refueling helicopters, and the Air Force came in and set theirs up next to ours, and they were refueling 141s and C5s, and yeah, and something was going on when we were, because we go for 2 weeks and go up to our forward area to refuel helicopters, and we'd come back down. The new guys would come up with the truck, and then we'd take the truck and drive all the way back down. And we knew there was something going on when the convoy of tanks and equipment coming up north. You saw it two weeks earlier. It was just like a 2-hour drive to come back down, and it was just a solid convoy. And 2 weeks later, the same convoy is still going up north. Yeah. That's when you kind of realize something's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I remember sitting there watching them pull off. I think they pulled off like 8 Apaches off of a C5 one day. I think it was like 8.
Wow.
That 8? They had, and yeah, because they had put them, because they could fold the wing, they could fold the rotors.
Yeah.
And they put them nose to tail, like they're stagger them. And I think they could get 8. I think it was 8. I could be wrong, but
wow.
I probably ought to look at that to find out for sure. But but it was a lot of helicopters coming off of one C5.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Because they aren't heavy. The Apaches are light compared to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we were down in Jebel, the C5s and commercial airliners were landing, getting troops off, dropping troops off. 747s, and there was a lot of stuff. And then you had the foreign military jets flying, fighter jets. It was kind of cool to see all the foreign planes flying around. There was I think it was a British Tornado that came in. Was it during? I think it was during the war, and he landed. He had a unexploded missile stuck in his intake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he got the plane slow enough that he could open the canopy and jump out and run away from the plane as the plane's still rolling.
Okay, I'm wrong. They said it can hold 3.
Oh, okay.
So I'll have to get Hannah to cut the 5 out and put 3 in. So I won't, because I didn't want to be lying. But I just know that there was that, and I'm just sitting there going, "Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy."
Yeah. When you're seeing a C5 open up and all these vehicles are coming out of it, and minesweepers and stuff.
I mean, it's the problem with the Marines, though, the Navy usually takes so damn long to get y'all there. They always put y'all on the boat. The Air Force, we can get people there tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The Marines, the Navy's too damn slow. That's their problem.
Yeah. But I think that's why they send us over on the Air Force C5s. Yeah.
Well, they had to have a way to say, and that's what I tell everybody, because you would think, why would a vehicle maintenance guy, which was me, be one of the first ones over there? But the reality is you got to get everything running and everything set up so everybody else can get there.
Right. Yeah. And you got to make sure everything is running. So when people do get there, they have equipment to use. And
people give, all these people give us support guys a bunch of crap, but the reality is they can't do anything without us. I was it's kind of interesting too, is I did fuel trucks. That was my specialty.
Okay.
They had went over to Bahrain, and they had stored like 12 fuel trucks underground in Bahrain.
Wow.
For emergency war stuff.
Yeah.
And they went and dug it out of the sand, and it took 3 of us like 2 weeks to get it all running.
Wow.
We had fuel bladders and everything else, because that's what we stored. And we did hot refuelings and stuff like that off of the bladders and everything. Right. But we also had those trucks that were there doing. I got pictures of us working on the trucks out in the middle of the desert.
Wow.
Maybe I ought to find them and put them on put them on my webpage because they're pretty
Yeah.
pretty interesting to watch to see that kind of stuff. You know, you don't really think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it, you know,
Cool.
but everybody, you know, you got to have fuel to be able to do anything, whether it's vehicles
Right.
or,
Right. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, or
Aircraft.
aircraft.
Vehicles.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
You know,
Wow, that's pretty wild that they buried them.
yeah, they were buried. I mean, they weren't buried as in buried. They were in caves, but you know what I'm saying. I mean,
Okay.
you know,
Wow.
they were, yeah, they were in caves, so you know they were buried underground basically, but they were buried in bunkers to where they, you know, they could
Okay.
dig them out. But
Right.
yeah, so that was an interesting deal. But
Right.
yeah, they weren't in too good a shape.
How were they pretty old?
Actually, they weren't any older than what we were using stateside.
Okay. All right.
You know, I was kind of surprised.
Yeah.
But you know, I had a feeling that they already knew that something was going to go down over there.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, it's all about money. It's the richest. It's one of the richest countries in the world, money wise. I mean, because of oil. So I
Right.
mean, let's be realistic. It's always about money.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Look at Saudi Arabia footed the bill. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was interesting too because we were flying at Dahran. We had, and you know, because all these countries' pilots speak English, you know, because that's just to fly. I think English is the language of commerce. So I think all pilots have to speak English from foreign
Oh, really?
countries. Yeah, I
Okay.
think. I mean, I was told that once, but I do know from experience because we had Kuwaitis that
Uh
were
huh.
what was left of the Kuwaiti Air Force was flying over to Dahran. We
Okay.
had the British there. We had the French there. We had the
Right.
Italians there. They were all, and us and the Saudis. We had
Yeah.
6 countries flying over to Dahran.
Wow.
There was an aircraft taking off and landing every minute. They would take off two, land two. They would take off side by side. Two
Yeah.
would take off, two would land. Two take off, two would land. That went
Wow.
on. That went on 24/7
Wow.
the whole
Wow.
time that we were there.
Yeah.
It
Wow.
was crazy.
When the ground war started, the air war started first on that day, that day before it happened, that they started it. Corpsmen and stuff came up from down south to our, because there was 6 of us at this forward area refueling point,
Yeah.
and the highest rank was an E4, and they came up and gave us shots.
Yeah.
And they made us fill out these flyers that said, "We won't tell anybody we got these shots."
Yeah. Well, they refused to put it in your shot records. At least they refused to put
Yeah.
it in mine.
And we were awake, acting crazy for a week after we got these shots.
Well, supposedly it was anthrax and botulism were the two.
Huh.
That's what I later found out with my research.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody's worried about taking the COVID shots now, but I'm sitting there going, I've been a guinea pig the whole time I was in the military. Why should this be any different?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
Yeah. I don't know, because I don't think because we had anthrax like 3 times. Once we were still in the States, we got it.
yeah,
Then when we first got over there, they gave us another one, and then right when that same day we got that one, we said we wouldn't tell anybody we got. They gave us another anthrax too, and then we got this other shot, and we
my
were.
guess is the one that we weren't supposed to tell about was the botulism one.
Oh yeah, huh?
Yeah,
Wow.
you know, that's a cow thing.
Yeah.
I walked around telling people that, you know, it made me want to graze. You know.
Ah.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the air war started, and then we were, the helicopters, like the Cobras, would come up to us all loaded with their tow missiles and their missiles and everything,
Yeah.
and they'd be gone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they'd be back down to us totally empty, and the pilots were going thumbs up and everything, and then they go back down south, reload up again and come back. This happened until then when the ground war was supposed to start, they came up and got us and took us back down to North Jubail, and we abandoned that camp we had. And then one day they asked if me and this other guy that I worked with that had been up in the forward area, if we would go on this. We're gonna take a 53 Echo helicopter. They put a 500-gallon fuel pod on it, and then we had one of our little Briggs and Stratton pumps and hoses and everything we needed to refill, to drag hoses out and refill helicopters from the helicopter.
That had to be a bitch dragging those hoses in that heat.
Oh yeah, but it was the middle of the night when we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, and we're just like, we have our rifles and everything, and ammo and just in case, because we were going up to the front lines to refuel these helicopters that are in the fight and everything, and helping the fuel trucks. And we're flying and flying and flying, and we're just like, man, when are we going to get there? And then they said, oh, well, we got to go back. They're going too fast. The word was going too fast. So we were going to turn around and go back. And so we're like, well, okay. It's kind of a relief, but again, it was kind of like, we were looking forward to it, But again, it was kind of like a relief because you were kind of like scared of what was going to happen,
Yeah, that's an interesting feeling because, when in Dhahran, us and Riyadh, they were lobbing more scuds at us than anybody else. I mean, I sat one night and watched 7 of them come in. And I actually had one hit about 500 yards from me and kind of hit right at the end of the runway.
Wow.
And it shook the whole. We were in one of those hardened aircraft shelters.
Yeah.
And those steel-plated doors.
Yeah.
It moved them. I mean, because it was that close. Because what happened was they were supposedly, okay, this is all supposedly, the Army was holding the Patriot missiles until the trajectory would land the warhead on base.
Okay.
So, because they didn't want the civilian casualties, they figured that the military base could handle casualties more easier than the civilian population.
Okay.
So they supposedly were holding it. Well, one of because they fired 2 Patriots for every Scud that was coming in. And it looked like the 4th of July.
Wow.
Because, and here I am, not this one time I was in the hardened aircraft ship, but there was another time where we were out there and we were right beside the fuel bladders.
Okay.
And we had pieces of Scud ray. Actually, it's kind of interesting because I found these the other day. This right here is pieces of Scud.
Oh, wow.
That rained down.
Wow.
I ought to get these framed.
Yeah.
These are just pieces of Scud that we walked along and picked up.
Wow.
While we were there.
Right.
And I ought to get that framed because I have this too, if it's what I think it is. Oh, it was one of the things. Baghdad's first annual air show. Air Force, F-15s, F-117s, F-16s, F-4s, B-52s, and A-10s. Navy was displaying F-18s, F-14s, A-6s, and EA-6s. The Army was displaying AH-64s and A-6s, and the Marines had the AV-8Bs, which are the Harriers.
Okay.
Special appearances by the U.S. Air Force TR-1 and E-3A, static displays, French-built Mirages, Soviet-built MiG-29s, MiG-27s. That's all their aircraft.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll save this. I've actually got, and I need to find it. I think it's with my pictures. I've actually got one of those flyers that they dropped over on the Republican Guard.
Oh, wow.
Basically saying, we're coming to bomb you tomorrow. In Arabic. So it had a picture of an F-18.
Yeah.
and it basically had an F-18 dropping bombs, and basically it was like you're next. Basically, is what it was saying.
Nice. That's cool.
So,
And when we were at our Ford area point refueling
Yeah.
at night, when the air war started, you can hear the jets above and see the blinking light
Yeah.
of the cars. And then when they got just past us, just barely past us, the lights would go out and their afterburners would come on, and you could see the afterburners on the jets up
Yeah.
in the sky. And plus, didn't they had B-52 bombers that they had over there,
The B-52s were flying there to Diego Garcia, I think.
and we could hear them up there, the props, you know, and we're like, oh man, that's pretty cool. But yeah, the lights will go out, and their afterburners on the jets will go on at when they go. We're about right over our heads, and they were going in for their bombing runs.
You might have been hearing the C-130 gunships.
Could have been. I could have been, yeah.
You know that because I know that they had a lot of those over there, and they were scraping the Republican Guard all the time.
Right.
With those things.
Okay.
They
Those
say
things
those
are,
things,
man.
they say those things can hit every square inch of a football field in a pass.
Right. Wow.
You know,
That's,
so I mean,
yeah.
it's just crazy what we're capable of doing if need be, and that
Right.
was a full display. They didn't mess around there.
Oh,
Not like I hate to say it, but kind of not like what they did this time. They,
yeah.
I mean, it's to me it turned into a disaster this last time, and I don't mean any disrespect to anybody that was there.
Yeah.
It's just that they didn't allow them to do their jobs. They allowed us to do our jobs. They didn't allow them to do theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, yeah, everything was, they didn't cut any corners, and everything was, they let the generals and everything do their job, and
Right. Yeah.
yep.
So it's because that was an interesting. What I got there in August and left in March. Was it March? March 8th? Yeah, I think it was March. That was you left in what March? You left in March, didn't you?
We left in April.
April, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we left like March 8th because
Okay.
we were promised since we were the first ones in, we would be the first ones out.
Nice.
That's one of the few times the military held up to what they said. They did what they said they were going to do.
Right. They gave away our plane like 3 times or something to somebody else. We were supposed to, okay, you guys are leaving on this day. Oh well, we gave our plane to they gave the plane to somebody else, and you guys are gonna wait a little bit longer. We were there 2 months longer than we were supposed to be.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And we didn't, for 2 months we didn't have anything to do. We basically walked around, and they put us in an Air Force tent.
Y'all were in heaven then. You had an air conditioner in here.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, we were just, we got in the air conditioning tent, and they didn't have, they already had us, gave all our stuff to another group, and they didn't have anything for us to do, and we just waited to go home. And when the plane took off, we got on a Tower Air 747.
I wonder if you flew back on the one I left on, because I know Tower can't have so many planes. That's what I got on.
We when that plane got off the ground, everybody was cheering. The whole plane was shaking, and the stewardesses are going, stop, because the plane was they were shaking the plane.
Yeah, it hit about 500 yards from us at the end of the runway, and like I said, they were holding the Scuds.
Yeah.
And they were holding the Patriots. And actually, what had happened was the first one missed it. The second one didn't hit it. It followed it into the ground, basically. So there were 2 booms. There was a boom from the 500-pound warhead, and then there was a smaller boom behind it for the Patriot falling it into the ground.
Wow.
I got that story after it was all said and done.
Yeah. Wow.
So, that's the closest. I come to getting shot at.
Yeah.
My guess is they were shooting over you to get to me.
Yeah, because there was actually one time we were out there and we didn't know anybody was even close to being near us. And, I think it was about, man, I don't know, between 3 and 5 miles away. It was like starting to get dark. It was dusk. And we were like on guard duty, just checking the fuel farm and stuff. And all of a sudden you see these missiles take off in the distance. And we're just like, holy crap, we didn't even know nobody was over there,
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we counted like 8 missiles took off.
Were they Patriots? Probably.
I think so, yeah, because it was to the east of us on the coast.
They might have been the ones from Daharan, because that's where we had ours. Is that ours were?
Oh, really?
Ours were right outside of our area. We drove by the Patriot batteries every day.
Wow.
And we would sit there and watch them take off. We would sit,
Wow.
I mean, they would take off, and then the air raid sirens would go off after the Patriots took off. So the air raid sirens were a waste of time, because we started calling it the Patriot Early Warning System, because the Patriots would take off.
Yeah.
And I never will forget the first time that I saw one of those things take off, because I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And all I saw something take off, and I couldn't see the Patriot battery. All I could see was the missile. I could see the contrails from the missile. And it went parallel the ground, and then you could see when it locked on, because it automatically went straight up from there.
Right.
And it went up, and then we saw this big boom.
Wow.
We couldn't see the missile because it was early morning, it was daylight.
Yeah.
That's the first one I saw. Then they started bombing us at night. And I'm not going to say I was smart enough, but I kind of figured out what was going to happen. So I volunteered to work nights.
Okay.
I got to sleep because they didn't really do a whole lot during the day, because they could see where the mobile launchers were during the day.
Right.
They were launching the Scuds at night.
Okay.
And I was already awake. Now the poor bastards that worked during the day never got any sleep.
Wow.
Because they had to get up all the time.
Right.
To go
to the bunker. Yeah.
The bunkers, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I was already awake, and I was already there watching it. We kind of got nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
Because it was like they would take off, and we were like, okay. We'd watch them. We'd just stand there and watch them.
Yeah. When we had radio watch all night long, and we would hear on the radio when the Scuds were in the air, but they go over us and go down south,
Mm-hmm.
And only one time that we actually had to get into the bunker, but they were all going south. They were way over our heads, But
yeah, there was a place they called it KKMC. I don't know if you heard about it or not, but it was like within 2 miles of the Iraqi border. It was King Khalid Military City is what they called it, KKMC. Okay. And they didn't even know it was there. They were shooting over all y'all to get to us.
Yeah. Wow.
Which was really, I'm sitting there scratching my head at that. But they didn't have the technology we had. I mean, we got our satellites and everything. We can see everything that's going on.
Right. Yeah.
They couldn't find a base. They couldn't find the aircraft to even check to see what's around on their borders. Every time one of their aircraft got off the ground, they got shot down by one of ours.
Wow.
The first actual kill of the war, the first aircraft kill was an F-15 Saudi pilot, shot down a MiG.
Oh wow!
Out of the base, and the second confirmed kill was one of our pilots from Langley.
Okay.
They gave him credit for the first one, but the first one was actually a Saudi pilot, from what history has told me.
Okay.
All
right.
So.
That's kind of cool. Shoot down a MiG with the F-15.
Yeah. I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, they're awesome airplanes.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll stop for the night. I won't be here next week, so I got some stuff I gotta do. So we'll skip next week, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. Thanks, I really appreciate it, buddy.
Sure. No problem.
Be good. Tell the little lady I said hi.
Okay, I will.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good week.
All right, bye.